Hello friends. As promised, in this video, I will continue my story about integrating the Deye inverter into Home Assistant. And together we will go through my second package where I describe the logic of operating modes, or more precisely energy profiles, which allow shifting electricity consumption from the city grid to periods with a lower tariff. Essentially, this is another useful aspect of an autonomous energy system, the ability to switch to the cheapest possible tariff. However, it should be noted that this is not the main capability, but rather an additional one. The main advantage, in my opinion, is the ability to fully use electrical appliances when the city grid is unavailable. The night tariff will never cover the cost of the system. This is difficult even if you have your own generation, solar or wind. Before we begin, as usual, please like this video. It will help other people interested in the smart home topic find it. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. As I mentioned earlier, at the moment I have created 4 operating modes. If electricity from the city grid is unavailable, all of them work exactly the same way. The inverter powers the apartment. From now on, I will use the word load from the battery. They differ only in how they operate when grid power is available. Now I will explain each of them. Night mode. It operates during the period when the night tariff is active. In my case, the electricity price during this time is 50% of the daytime rate. The load is powered through the inverter but directly from the city grid, and the battery is charging if necessary. During the period when the night tariff is active, there is only one operating mode. All the others are daytime modes. Normal mode, logically, does not differ from the night mode. When the city grid is available, the load is powered from it, and the battery charges if necessary. This mode is intended for periods of frequent or unpredictable emergency outages, when saving money is not the priority. In these situations, you can set the maximum possible charging current in order to reduce charging time. However, this is not very good for batteries. Eco mode. This is the mode I use most often. The idea is that after the electricity supply is restored, the battery does not start charging immediately. It remains at the same charge level until the night mode starts. This is convenient during predictable outages. It provides not only backup power, but also allows shifting these energy costs to the cheaper tariff period. This is where the savings begin. Super Eco mode is intended for cases when outages are not expected or are very short. When it is active, the system continues to operate from the battery, even when power from the city grid is available. If the battery capacity is sufficient for the entire night tariff period, you can switch completely to the night tariff. I often use it together with Eco mode. For example, if there are 3 to 4 hours left before the start of the night tariff, the remaining battery charge is still quite high, and outages, at least during the first couple of hours of the night tariff period, are not expected. In this case, I can shift part of the daytime energy consumption to the night tariff as well. Now let's talk about several key objects provided by the integration. For more details about it, see the first part of the video. The link is in the description. In the city grid settings section, there is a charging switch. When it is enabled, the inverter allows the battery to charge from the grid. When it is disabled, it does not. Below it, there is a battery charging current setting. In my case, 100 amps, which is 1/3 of the maximum battery charging current, meaning a gentle mode. Consumption at this current is about 5 kilowatts. There is also a low charge level setting here. Mine is set to 15%. When this level is reached, the inverter will start beeping. One of the most important and useful settings is time of use, TOU. This is the inverter operating schedule. There are many options here, from enabled and disabled to selecting specific days of the week in various combinations. By activating it, you enable the schedule either permanently or on selected days. And this is the schedule itself. There are 6 blocks here, each containing 5 settings. The key ones are the charging type, charge level, and the start time of the period. Here is what we can see from these settings. The first period starts at 7 a.m. when the night tariff ends. From this period through the 5th period inclusive, the charging mode is disabled. The battery will not charge. The charge level is set to 80%. This means that when the city grid is available, the system will first use battery energy, but once the charge level reaches 80%, the discharge will stop and the load will operate from the grid. The second period starts at 10 a.m. and here it is allowed to use another 10%, down to 70%. The third period starts at 1 p.m. and allows discharge down to 60%. The fourth period starts at 4 p.m. and allows discharge down to 50%. The fifth period starts at 7 p.m. and allows discharge down to 30%. The sixth period marks the beginning of the night tariff at 11 p.m. Here charging from the grid is allowed, and the charge level is set to 100%. So this is a standard configuration that allows you to use the battery during the day without worrying about discharging it completely, and then recharge it during the cheaper night tariff period. However, when outages are unpredictable, it is better to control everything manually, which is why I implemented my own logic. Let me remind you again what the inverter page looks like in my interface. The operating modes block is located on the right. It contains a number of switches and sensors that are used in my second package. In fact, there are many more of them. I displayed only the main ones. And now we will go through all of them in detail. As usual, I organized everything as a single package file that combines many different objects, helpers, sensors, scripts, and automations. This is very convenient to work with. You don't have to search for them across different pages in the interface, and you can easily copy and apply them in your own setup. You will find a link to the text version in the description below the video. Let's start with helpers. The first element declared in this package is the mode selector. You can choose between 3 modes. The fourth one, night mode, is enabled automatically, so it is not included here. I already explained how they differ from each other. This is a logical switch that I added to the logic for cases of fully manual control. The idea is that when it is active, regardless of the selected operating mode, during the night, it will switch to normal mode. This does not affect the night period itself, but the next morning the mode will have to be selected manually again. If the switch is not active, the mode will automatically return in the morning, Eco or Super Eco. Next comes the block of template sensors, starting with binary ones. The first one serves as a night mode indicator and will be active from 11:05 p.m. until 6:55 a.m. Next, there is a series of control sensors. This one reflects the expected state of the grid charging switch. When night mode is active, it should be enabled. In Eco mode, it should be disabled. In the other modes, it should also be enabled. Next, there is a sensor whose template compares the expected state with the actual state of the switch from the integration. If they do not match, it turns on, otherwise it remains off. This is another comparison. Here, the actual state of the time of use selector is compared with the expected state. The sensor containing the expected state is described a little later, since it is not binary, and I will get to it shortly. A general control sensor checks both comparison sensors. If there is a mismatch in at least one of them, it becomes active, which allows the system to correct the inconsistency. And here is the sensor that defines the expected state of the time of use selector. It is not binary, so it is described in the next block. The logic here is similar to what we already discussed. In night mode, the selector is disabled. In Super Eco mode, it is enabled. And in the other modes, it is disabled. However, I should note once again that if the electricity supply is stable, especially when you have your own generation, it is usually enough to configure this mode once using time periods. That would replace all the logic I am demonstrating here. Now the scripts section. I decided to use scripts because within this package, different automations perform the same actions. Instead of duplicating them, it is easier to define them once. A separate script is created for each mode, and each script consists of 2 blocks. This is the night mode script. In the first block, we check the state of time of use. If it is already disabled, we do nothing. Otherwise, we disable it. Then there is a pause of 2 seconds. In the second block, we check the grid charging mode. If it is already enabled, we do nothing. Otherwise, we enable it. Disabling TOU and enabling grid charging results in the load being powered from the grid while the battery charges. This is the script for normal mode. In principle, it does not differ from the night mode script, and they could be combined. However, I allowed some duplication here simply to make the structure of the package more logical. The TOU mode must be disabled. If it is not, it is forcibly disabled. Grid charging must be enabled. If it is not, it is forcibly enabled. The load is powered from the grid and the battery charges. The behavior is the same as at night, except that it can also be selected during the day. This mode is suitable for conditions with unpredictable outages when it is difficult to plan charging time. This is the script for Eco mode. To activate it, it is enough to disable the grid charging switch, which is done in the first block. After that, the load continues to run from the grid, while battery charging can be postponed until the night tariff. This is the mode I currently use most often, essentially shifting daytime energy consumption to the cheaper night tariff. The TOU mode is disabled here because when it is enabled, the schedule takes priority and the position of the grid charging switch no longer plays a significant role. And the last mode is Super Eco. It operates according to the schedule, so in the first block the TOU selector is set to enabled. I also use it from time to time. For example, when a planned outage occurs in the second half of the day, and after it ends there is still a significant charge level left, while several hours remain before the start of the night tariff. This allows even more daytime energy consumption to be shifted to the night tariff. For this mode, the position of the grid charging switch does not really matter, but in order not to break the logic, I enable it anyway. So we have 4 modes and 4 scripts that can be called from any automation, which we will now move on to. The first automation reacts to changes of the mode selector declared at the beginning of this package. There are 2 conditions here, but within this logic, only one actually matters. The server operating mode switch is a feature of my configuration. The working condition is the binary night tariff sensor. It must be off, since this automation works only during the day. Thanks to the scripts, the actions implemented here using a condition selector remain very compact. If the selector is set to normal mode, we run the script that enables grid charging and disables time of use. For Eco mode, there is a separate script that disables both time of use and grid charging. There is also the Super Eco mode, which enables everything, grid charging and operation according to the schedule. The schedule can be configured once, and based on it the inverter will reserve a specific charge level for each mode. At the end of the automation, there is a mandatory notification. By the way, it is already implemented taking into account the Home Assistant update from March 2026. It contains the current mode, the state of the grid charging switch, the time of use state, the charge level, and the time. The next automation is a control automation. It runs once every 30 minutes to eliminate possible desynchronization when the actual states of the grid charging switch and TOU do not match the expected states. For this logic, there is only one working condition: the general desynchronization sensor that monitors the 2 other sensors for grid charging and TOU. If the condition is triggered, depending on whether the night tariff sensor is active, or if not which mode is selected in the selector, the automation runs the corresponding script that performs the switching. Everything remains compact and convenient. After that, a notification is sent containing information about the detected mismatch and the current system parameters. Besides the notification itself, this helps determine that the logic is not working correctly and that it is necessary to analyze where the error occurred. In my case, there were no real triggers of this automation. I triggered it manually for demonstration. Next comes the automation that starts the night mode. The trigger is the time, 11:06 p.m. Attentive viewers may remember that in the time of use schedule my last, 6th period begins at 11 p.m. That is correct. If the Super Eco mode was selected, the logic here duplicates it and the battery has already been charging for 6 minutes. The time is set this way so that the binary night mode sensor is already active. No conditions are required for this logic. In the actions, the system first checks whether the switch for automatic normal mode selection is enabled. If it is, the selector is changed. This is necessary for manual control of the inverter. Next, unconditionally, the night mode script is executed. The schedule is disabled and grid charging is enabled. After that, a telegram notification is sent announcing the start of the night tariff. The final automation handles the end of the night tariff. It is designed to restore the settings. It runs at 6:56 a.m. when the binary night mode sensor is already inactive. Next, there is a block of conditions that restores the settings of the mode that was selected before the night tariff period started. In fact, this is also a duplicate automation, since it's 7 a.m. For minutes later, the automation that checks the consistency between actual and expected settings will run. The only difference here is the notification message, which indicates that this is normal system behavior rather than detection of a mismatch. That is exactly why this automation was created. And instead of a conclusion, here is a demonstration of how the system works. Right now, the Super Eco mode is selected. Grid charging and the time of use schedule are enabled. Currently, the load is powered from the battery. The city grid is available, but it is supplying almost no power at the moment. Here you can see the distribution of power across the phases. Now switching to Eco mode. First, grid charging is disabled, then time of use. Now the load is powered from the grid, but the battery is not charging. Here we can see that the power is evenly distributed across the incoming phases. Essentially, this is something like a standby mode, waiting either for the next outage or for the night tariff period. And finally, normal mode. Grid charging is enabled and the schedule is disabled. The diagram updates. Now the grid supplies not only the load, but also charges the battery. That's all. I hope this video was useful and interesting for you. I will be glad to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new reviews and tutorials. In the description below the video, you will find all the necessary links, the text file with the package, the videos mentioned, as well as my Telegram channels, social networks, and the community group dedicated to smart home discussions. Thank you for your attention. See you next time, and peace to everyone.